Hi students, today we are going to be talking about bias and random samples and surveys. So as a mathematician, it is important to make sure that you are not being biased when you are surveying a group of people or sampling a group of people, because you want to make sure that the data that comes from it is going to be realistic. So that's why we talk about bias and random questions in math, is because it is important to know whether you're being biased or not when answering some questions to other people, or just by the people that you pick for a survey or a sample that you select. Okay, so we do have some definitions that we need to know here. So a population, so that is everybody. So think of like the population in the United States. Okay, so a population is an entire group or individuals considered for a survey in this case. So if I was talking about the students at FCJH, that would be talking about all 7th and 8th grade students, which they would be considered the population. The next word here is a sample. So sample is part of a population. So if we're talking about FCJH, again, that's talking about all 7th and 8th graders. Let's say I only wanted to sample the 7th graders. So only sampling the 7th graders would be the sample part of the entire population here at FCJH. Okay. Then a random sample is a sample in which each individual in the entire population has equal chance of being selected. So for example, some companies, like retail companies, sometimes have deals on, let's say, the first 20 customers who enter their store, they get 20% off their total order. So everybody has a equal chance of being selected if they were to get there first. Or you could say, like, students in the lunch line, if you wanted to survey every 5th student about if they like pizza or not, that would be a random sample, because every student has the opportunity to be the 5th person. It's just a matter of were they the 5th person or not. A bias sample is a sample that does not fairly represent the population. So for example, let's say I'm trying to figure out if math teachers like math. Okay, so being biased, so if I'm trying to figure out what teachers like math, let's say I only survey the math teachers. Well, obviously the math teachers are going to like math, so you would be representing a biased sample, because you know that math teachers are going to say that they like math because if they teach it. Now, if you were to say, all right, what teachers like math, and you were to survey every 20th teacher in the system at FCJH, then that would be random, because you could get a math teacher, you might not get a math teacher, so it is random. And then lastly is a convenient sample. That is a sample in which each individual in the entire population is picked based on being readily available. So that just means that they must be available in order to take the sample. So for example, if you're doing a survey at 9:10 during the school day or 9:20 during the school day, and you just want to survey the teachers who have prep period, because they would be readily available since they are not teaching during that class period. So that would be a convenient sample. Okay, so let's look at some examples and see if these are biased or random. So the athletic department at a middle school has been given a donation. Administrators want students to help decide how to spend the money by having students choose one of the options listed at the right. And you guys need to tell me if it's biased or random. So the options that we could do here with the money that was donated is we can buy new baseball team uniforms, add more bleachers in the gym, or put new lockers in the girls' locker room. So let's say that administrators surveyed the girls who leave gym class. So you need to tell me if administrators only survey girls who leave gym class, would they be biased or not to pick one of these options? So think about it. So if you only survey the girls as they leave gym class, would they be more likely to pick one of these options over the other one? Hopefully you said yes, because if they are only surveying girls as they leave the gym class, obviously they're probably going to pick the option of putting new lockers in the girls' locker room. So this would be biased. And you could just explain why. So you could put they would be more likely to pick the new lockers in the girls' locker room. You could put like they only represent the PE girls and not the boys. So there's a couple different explanations that you guys could do there. So I'm just going to put only represent the PE girls. And again, you guys could also put that they would be more likely to pick the third option over the other ones. All right, number 2, what if admin surveys students as they wait in line to buy school lunch? So would that be biased or would that be random? So if lunch, would they be favored to pick one of the options over another one? They would not be. So this would be random because each student has equal chance of being selected. All right, and then let's try the last one. So the admin surveyed the students who are on the baseball team. So would this be biased or random? Would the baseball team choose an option more than another one? They definitely would. They would pick the buy new baseball team uniforms. So if they were to only survey students on the baseball team, this would be biased because they would prefer the new baseball team uniforms over the other options, or you can put that they only represent baseball players. Okay, so now onto the back side. So we need to find out if these statements would produce biased results or not. So the first question says, do you, like most people your age, dislike listening to boring classical music? So if you were to ask someone or ask a group of people your age this question, would it produce biased results or not? So if you guys are saying that it would, that is correct. So yes, it would create biased results because it says like most people your age. So let's say I were to ask middle school students. If I were to only ask middle school students if they like boring classical music, more than likely they are all going to say no. You might have a couple here and there that will say yes, but for the most part, most students will say no. However, if you ask your grandparents, okay, so people your age, so maybe your age would be a grandparent's age, okay, and they were to ask their friends if they like classical music, then maybe they're more than likely to say yes than no. So it's biased because you're asking only people your age, and they also threw in a word to help you pick an answer over another one. So if you say boring classical music, obviously no one's going to like anything that's boring, so this will produce biased results because people are going to say no. Okay, no one likes boring classical music. So yes, it will produce biased results because it is generational. So that is talking about people your age, and the adjective boring. So those are two things that will produce biased results here. Okay. All right, so then the next one, do you agree with your town's policy for skateboarding on public property? So would this produce biased results? It would not. So it would not, because they're asking the people in the town for their policy on skateboarding. So this would be a random survey, and it's just a yes or no opinion. It's either you agree or you disagree. There's nothing in that sentence that throws adjectives out there to make you choose an answer or over another one. It says that it's asking people in the town. So those are reasons why they would not produce biased results. Okay, so now we are going to create our own random sample for each situation. So it says a car manufacturer wants to know the distance of a car owner drives each week. So if a car manufacturer wants to know this information, who should they survey that would create a random sample and not be biased? So there are a bunch of different things that you guys can put here. Excuse me. But if I remember, most of the time students pick like poll those who come into the shop, because whoever comes into the shop would have an equal chance of being surveyed to see how much they drive each week. You could also like send out a survey to the customers who have your email list. So send out survey to the customers on the email list, because then everybody has an equal opportunity to answer it. So again, there's a bunch of different things that you guys could choose here, so just make sure that everybody would have an equal opportunity to be selected, so that then it's a random sample. Okay, so then the next one, so managers of a department store want to know whether males or females use their store charge cards most often. So again, we're just trying to find different ways that a manager of a department store can survey people that would give everybody the equal opportunity to be selected. So again, just like the car manufacturer, they can poll the ones that come into the store. Again, you could send out a survey. You could do like a online shopping poll. So after they get done shopping and they hit checkout, there could be a poll that pops up. So again, there's a lot of different opportunities that you guys could select to create a random sample. Okay. All right, and then at the bottom here, these are just some examples of biased and unbiased, so in other words, random questions that you guys can think about. So the way that a question is phrased can lead people to choose a particular response. So an example of this would be, would you rather see an exciting movie or babysit a crying child? So obviously those adjectives, the exciting and a crying child, are going to help lead people to choose a particular response, because most people are going to want to choose the exciting movie over babysitting a crying child. So we would say that this is biased because it leads people to choose one over the other one. And another example would be, would you rather spend $10 on a boring movie or get $25? So again, it leads people towards one answer over another one, because more people are going to want to get $25 than to just watch a boring movie. So an example of this, so if I were to say, change this sentence to make it into an unbiased sentence, so an unbiased questions, all that you guys would have to do is just take out those adjectives. So take out exciting and then take out a crying child, and then just create a new sentence out of it. So here's what they did. So they took out exciting, they took out crying, And now this says, would you rather go to a movie or babysit? So now this would be considered an unbiased question because it does not lead people to choose a particular response over the other one. Okay. Also, a question that does not give enough information to the respondent to give an accurate opinion may also produce biased results. So one of the examples is up above that we talked about. So do you agree with the town's policy for skateboarding on public property? Technically we did put that it would be a random survey up top, but this could produce biased results depending on who they're surveying. So it's not saying if they're surveying through the town or if they're doing just skateboarders or non-skateboarders. So because it's not specific enough, this could produce biased results. So it's always important to produce questions that would be specific on who you're surveying and what the question would be without being biased. And then another example is, do you think the math department's new homework policy will help you? So again, it's not giving enough information to who's responding to the question. So it could produce biased results. Okay, but this is pretty much it. So you guys can now work on your homework assignment and then just email me for any questions. Thank you.